The stars looked peaceful, but peace never lasted long in space. Captain Ryan's ship shook violently. Red warning lights flashed everywhere, alarms screamed. He gripped the control stick tightly, trying to steady the ship. "This is Falcon 7. I've been hit. Engines failing, going down." He shouted into the radio, but no one answered. He was alone. Behind him, enemy drones chased like hungry wolves. A plasma blast hit his left wing and the ship spun out of control. Smoke filled the cockpit. Ryan couldn't see anything except the blue glow of the strange planet below. Then, silence. The ship crashed hard into the frozen ground. Metal screamed, glass shattered. Everything went black. Ryan opened his eyes slowly. His head hurt. Blood ran down his forehead. The cockpit was cracked open, and cold wind rushed in like knives. He tried to move, but pain shot through his leg. Outside, the world was white and silent. Snow covered everything. Sharp rocks and strange frozen trees stood like statues. The sky was dark, and two moons hung above him. He was not on Earth anymore. With great effort, he pushed open the door and crawled out. His breath turned to mist. His body shook. The cold was too much. He needed warmth. He needed shelter. He limped toward a nearby cave, leaving a trail of blood in the snow. His suit kept him alive, but it was damaged. The temperature was dropping. Fast. Inside the cave, it was dark but safe. Ryan collapsed against the wall. His hand reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photo. It showed his sister and his dog back home. He stared at it, smiling weakly. Then he heard something, soft sound, like breathing, but not human. He looked up. There was movement in the shadows. Someone or something was there. "Who's there?" Ryan called out, pulling out his small laser knife. A figure stepped into the dim light. It was a girl, but not fully human. Her skin was pale blue, almost glowing. Her eyes were large, shining like stars. Her hair was silver, long and messy. She was thin and wrapped in torn clothes. She looked scared and cold. She was shivering. Ryan didn't move. She stood a few feet away, hugging herself, breathing heavily. Then, in a soft, broken voice, she whispered, "Will you share your warmth with me, human?" Ryan blinked. Did she just speak English? She looked weak, as if she hadn't eaten or slept in days. Her legs shook. Her hands were blue with cold. He hesitated. Who was she? What was she? But something in her eyes stopped him. They weren't dangerous. They were lonely. He slowly reached into his backpack and pulled out his thermal cloak. Without a word, he stepped forward and gently placed it around her shoulders. She gasped, holding it tight. Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. They sat in silence for a while. Ryan lit a small emergency heater and placed it between them. The warmth spread slowly. She curled up beside it, still watching him carefully. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't answer at first. Then she said, "Lyra." "Where are you from, Lyra?" She looked down. "Here, I think." "I don't remember everything. You're not human," he said. "I know. But you speak English." "I learned from a voice long ago." Ryan frowned. Something was strange about her, and yet something felt familiar. "You saved me?" he asked. She nodded. "I pulled you out of the ship. You were almost frozen." Ryan looked at her again. She didn't look strong, but somehow she had helped him. She could have left him to die, but she didn't. "Why?" he asked. "I was cold too," she said softly. "And you had warmth." He smiled a little. They sat in silence again, only the sound of the wind outside the cave. Ryan knew he was lucky to be alive, but now he was also curious. Who was this girl, really? How did she know his language? And why did he feel like this crash wasn't just an accident, but a beginning? As the heater buzzed gently and the snow fell outside, one thing became clear: this planet was dangerous, but Lyra might be even more mysterious than the planet itself. The small heater buzzed quietly. Warmth spread through the cave, pushing back the icy air. Captain Ryan sat close to the flames, his injured legs stretched out, wrapped in bandages. Across from him, Lyra sat with the thermal cloak still around her shoulders. She held it tightly as if afraid it might disappear. Rayan watched her in silence. Her pale blue skin glowed faintly in the dark. Her silver hair fell over her face and her large eyes stayed low. She looked young, fragile, but something about her felt ancient. "How long have you been here?" Rayan finally asked. Lyra blinked. "Many days, maybe many years, I don't know anymore." "You live on this planet?" "I survive here." She corrected softly. Rayan frowned. "Are there others like you?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "Not anymore." Her words echoed in the cave. Not anymore. That meant there had been others. Rayan wanted to ask more, but Lyra stood up. She walked to the entrance of the cave and peeked outside. Snow still fell, covering his crashed ship in a thick white blanket. The night sky was filled with stars and two pale moons. This place felt quiet, but it wasn't safe. Rayan could feel it. "Creatures come out at night," Lyra whispered. "You must not go outside after dark." "What kind of creatures?" "Hungry ones." That was all she said. She came back and sat near him again. Rayan offered her one of his emergency rations. She looked at the small silver packet, unsure. Then she carefully opened it and took a small bite. Her eyes widened. "This is good? It's old," he said. "But yeah, better than nothing." They both laughed a little. The first real moment of peace since the crash. Rayan leaned back against the cold rock wall. "Why did you speak English?" Lyra looked at him. "I heard it once. A voice. In a recording. A man. He spoke stories." Rayan sat up straighter. "A man? Human?" She nodded. "He told stories about oceans and skies and a place called Earth." His voice was kind. "He called someone my son." Rayan's heart skipped a beat. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the same old photo. His sister, his dog, and his father standing in front of their home. "Was it him?" he asked, showing her the photo. Lyra stared at it. Slowly, her hand reached out. She touched the image of his father. That was the voice. Rayan's head spun. His father had gone missing years ago during a space mission. Official records said the ship was lost near a distant star system. Could this be the same planet? "Do you remember where you heard the recording?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "A long walk from here, an old place. It's broken now." Rayan looked at her again. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a piece of a mystery he never expected to find, and now he had even more questions. "What are you, Lyra?" She hesitated. "I don't know. I look like you, but different. I feel things too much. When people are near, I can hear their feelings." Rayan raised an eyebrow. "You read minds?" She shook her head. "Not thoughts. Only feelings. Pain, fear, kindness, warmth." He laughed softly. "That's a dangerous gift." Lyra smiled faintly. "That's why I stay alone." A sharp noise suddenly echoed outside the cave. Like claws on stone. Lyra stood up fast. "They're here." She moved quickly, throwing snow over the small fire until it died. Darkness swallowed them. Rayan turned on his wrist light, but Lyra grabbed his hand. "No light? They see light." He turned it off. They sat close, hiding in the shadows. Outside, something moved. Heavy, slow, breathing loud. Rayan could feel the cold again, creeping in. But next to him, Lyra didn't shiver. She was calm, focused. After several minutes, the sounds faded. "They're gone," she whispered. Ryan let out a long breath. "What are they?" "They hunt warm things. They don't like me. I'm different." Rayan looked at her with new eyes. She wasn't just a mystery. She was the reason he was still alive. She had saved him, shared warmth, shared food, even shared a part of his father's past. And yet, she had nothing. She had lived alone in the cold, hunted by monsters, and holding on to a voice from long ago, a voice that belonged to his family. He moved closer and handed her the photo again. "Keep it. It belongs to both of us now." Lyra held it gently, as if it were made of glass. That night, as the cave grew quiet again, Rayan made a silent promise to himself. He would protect her, he would find the truth, and he would not let her be alone again. Morning came slowly on the frozen planet. The pale blue sky stretched over a sea of white. Rayan stood just outside the cave, wrapped tightly in his emergency cloak. His injured leg still hurt, but he could move now. Beside him, Lyra sat on a rock, holding the photo he had given her. Her eyes were fixed on the horizon, quiet and thoughtful. Rayan looked at the wreckage of his ship. It was half buried in snow, but some parts were still usable. Most important of all, the emergency beacon. If he could fix it, he might be able to call for help. "I have to try," he said. Lyra turned her head. "If you send a signal, they might come?" "That's the idea," he said with a small smile, but Lyra's face didn't smile back. "Not just your people, others too, the ones who left me here." "They might be listening." Rayan froze. "What do you mean?" Lyra looked away. "Long ago, a ship came from the stars. Like yours, I was created. By them, I was part of a project. But something went wrong. They left. And they didn't come back." "You were made?" "I was grown in a lab. My mind is part human, part something else. I remember voices." White walls, pain, then cold. Rayan sat beside her. He couldn't imagine what she had gone through. "They said I was too unstable," she whispered. "They called me a threat. So they left me behind." Rayan looked at her, fragile, quiet, kind. "A threat?" He stood up and limped toward the ship. Lyra didn't stop him this time. Inside, the cold bit through his gloves. He worked for hours, pulling wires, fixing circuits. His hands were numb, but he kept going. At last he reached the small communications unit. It was damaged, but not destroyed. He connected his wrist console to it, trying to boost the signal. Then a small blinking light appeared. Signal strength. Weak, searching for relay. His heart raced. Outside, Lyra stood silently, watching the sky. The beacon sent a pulse into space. Over and over, and then ping, a signal answered. Rayan's eyes widened. "We got something." But then a second message appeared on his console. Encrypted message received. Eyes only, level 7 clearance. Rayan's console had once belonged to his father, a senior officer. So when the code unlocked automatically, his blood ran cold. Message begin. Survivor detected on planet 017. Bio specimen code Lyra 21 identified. Containment protocol in effect. Prepare subject for extraction. Status, dead or alive at 24 hours. Rayan stared at the words. He couldn't breathe. They weren't coming to rescue him. They were coming for her. He stepped out of the ship slowly. Lyra was still sitting on the rock, her silver hair blowing in the wind. She looked at him. "Did someone answer?" He nodded. "Yes, and will they help?" He paused. "I think so." He lied. That night, back in the cave, Lyra fell asleep. Near the heater, she held the photo in her hands. Rayan watched her, his mind spinning. She had saved him. She had shared warmth, food, even a memory of his father, and now, someone out there wanted her gone. He looked at his wrist console again. Dead or alive. His fist tightened. Suddenly, Lyra stirred in her sleep. Her body shook slightly. Then she whispered, eyes still closed, "Don't send me away." "Please." Rayan's eyes widened. Could she feel his thoughts? His fear? She opened her eyes slowly. "You're scared." "I'm not scared of you," he said quickly. "But you're hiding something." He didn't answer. She sat up. "They're coming, aren't they?" He looked at the fire. "Yes." She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply asked, "Will you give me to them?" Rayan stood up and walked to the edge of the cave. Outside, snow fell again, soft and slow. His hands trembled. "No," he said finally, "I won't." She walked to his side. "They will hurt you for that. I'll take the risk." They stood together in silence. Finally, she said, "Then I'll show you something." She led him through a narrow path behind the cave, a long tunnel of ice and rock. At the end, they reached a sealed metal door, covered in frost. Lyra placed her hand on it. The door lit up. A scanner passed over her hand. With a loud hiss, the door opened. Inside was a dark room filled with machines, old consoles, and shattered glass. The floor was covered in frost. Lights blinked faintly. There were beds, wires, and a screen. She walked to the screen and pressed a button. A voice played, calm, familiar. "This is Commander Elias Vorn, Day 51. Subject LIR at 21 shows signs of emotional awareness. She's learning." But command says terminate. Rayan's heart dropped. The voice was his father's. He stepped closer. I don't agree. She's not a weapon. She's a child. If anyone finds this... take care of her. The recording ended. Silence. Lyra looked at him, her eyes wide and shining. Rayan placed his hand on the console. We'll find a way out together. Outside, the snowstorm grew stronger. And above the sky, something was coming. The hidden lab smelled like old air and silence. Dust hung in the frozen light. Broken screens flickered weakly. Rayan walked slowly, his footsteps echoing on the metal floor. Lyra followed him, holding her arms tightly against her chest. He had just heard his father's voice, recorded many years ago, calling Lyra a child, not a threat. It shook something deep inside him. Your father was kind, Lyra whispered. He read stories to me when the others weren't watching. He called me Little Light. Rayan looked at her. You remember him? He was the only one who didn't treat me like a lab rat. Rayan's chest tightened. But he left you. Lyra looked down. He didn't want to. I heard him fight with the others. They said I was dangerous, broken, but he didn't agree. They walked deeper into the lab. There were test pods along the walls. Most were cracked or empty. Inside one, frozen solid, was a strange shape, part human, part something else. Lyra turned her face away. These were the others, she said. They didn't survive the cold or the tests. Rayan swallowed hard. Why would they do this? Because they were afraid of the future, she said, and afraid of their own mistakes. He stopped in front of an old console. It lit up as his wrist console connected automatically. Files flashed on the screen. Project Lyra lead, Commander Elias Vorn status, terminated reason. Subject showed signs of uncontrolled empathy and emotional projection. Risk high, outcome left behind. Empathy? Rayan read aloud. You feel emotions, yes, she said, but not just feel. Sometimes I reflect them. If someone near me is angry, I get angry too. If they're scared, I feel that fear. That's not a threat, he said. That's a gift. They didn't think so. Rayan clenched his fists. The people who left her here were the same people now coming to take her or destroy her. They're not rescuers, he said. They're cleaners. He looked around the room. There had to be something useful. A weapon, a shield, anything. Then Lyra touched his arm. There's something else. She led him to a small room at the back of the lab. Inside was a glowing tank. In it floated a strange golden orb, pulsing like a heartbeat. What is it? Rayan asked. Lyra's voice was soft. A piece of me. A memory core. They used it to train my mind. But I think it still holds recordings, maybe secrets. Rayan connected his console to the tank. A video began to play. It showed a younger version of his father standing in front of a window. Snow fell outside. He looked tired but calm. Log 87. This planet is colder than any I've known. The test subjects are changing. Faster than we expected. LIR 21. She's different. She doesn't just mimic emotion. She feels it. I don't care what command says. She's alive. If you're seeing this, maybe I didn't make it. Maybe I failed. But if my son ever finds this, I want him to know I tried to protect her. Rayan's eyes burned. His throat tightened. I found it, he whispered. I found your message. Lyra stepped closer. He hoped you would. Suddenly, a loud beep echoed from Rayan's wrist console. Alert, incoming craft, atmospheric entry in 15 minutes, they're coming. He said, fast. Lyra closed her eyes. Then we have to hide. They rushed back through the tunnel to the cave. Outside, the sky was darker now. Storm clouds spun above. From high above, Rayan saw it. A small black ship slicing through the clouds. He scanned the console. Military class. High speed, no ID code. They're not here to talk, Lyra said. Then we don't wait. Rayan ran to the wrecked ship and grabbed supplies. Food packs, a power core, a flare gun. A short-range jammer. Back in the cave, he placed the jammer near the entrance. It would block signals for a while. Lyra sat on the ground, holding her knees. She looked tired, afraid, but calm. Rayan knelt beside her. We'll survive this. You don't have to help me, she said. They'll hurt you for it. He looked at her seriously. You saved me. You showed me the truth. That's more than anyone else has done. Lyra's eyes shimmered, then a low hum echoed through the mountains. The ship had landed. Rayan peeked outside. 3 figures in black suits moved across the snow, heading toward the cave. Armed, cold, silent. He turned back. We have to move, now. But before they could run, a voice rang out through a loudspeaker. Captain Rayan Vorn, surrender the specimen. You have one chance. Rayan raised the flare gun. Lyra touched his arm again. No, let me— What? I'll make them feel it. Just for a moment, my truth? She stood and walked to the mouth of the cave. The soldiers pointed their weapons, but stopped. Lyra's body glowed softly. Her eyes shone like stars, and then they froze in place, blinking, confused. One dropped his weapon. Another fell to his knees. Rayan stepped beside her, amazed. What did you do? I let them feel what it's like, she said. To be left behind. Snow fell in slow silence. The soldiers stood frozen outside the cave, not by fear, not by weapons, but by something deeper. Something they didn't understand. Lyra's power had touched them, showed them a glimpse of what it felt like to be abandoned, alone, broken, and in that moment, they hesitated, but hesitation wouldn't last long. They'll come back stronger, Rayan said, watching from the shadows. With helmets next time, shields, no emotions. Lyra's glow faded, her knees weakened. Rayan rushed forward and caught her before she fell. You used too much energy, he said. I had to try. He helped her sit by the heater again. Her skin was colder than before, her hands shaking. Rayan stared at the wrist console. The signal jammer was still active for now. But the enemy ship outside was likely already sending reports to command. Time was running out. He paced the cave. His mind was racing. If he stayed, more would come. He couldn't fight them all. But if he gave her up? No, he wouldn't do that. Yet. The weight of silence between them grew. Lyra looked up. You saw the message, didn't you? Rayan stopped walking. She continued softly. The one that said dead or alive. He said nothing. I felt it. She whispered, your fear, your doubt. I wasn't doubting you, he said quickly. I was thinking about the cost. Rayan lowered his head. She wasn't angry. She understood. And that made it worse. I don't want you to die for me, she said. I don't care about the cost, he replied. But the truth was, he did care. Not about himself, but about the world he might lose, his sister, his life, the chance to return home. He sat beside her. I wish I had more time to think, to choose. But they're forcing our hands. Lyra looked at the photo again, the one of his family. You still miss them, she said. Every day. Then go, she whispered. Leave this planet. Leave me. No, he said instantly. I won't. You should. And what? Let them take you. Rayan's voice rose. They'll rip you apart in a lab. They already did once. Rayan clenched his fists. Then she said the one thing he wasn't ready for. If you betray me now, I'll understand. He stood up. Angry. Confused, hurt. Don't say that, he snapped. I'm not going to betray you. But part of him knew, deep down, that it could have happened. If fear had been just a little stronger. If he hadn't heard his father's voice. If she hadn't saved him. He stared into the fire. Then he walked out of the cave, needing air, needing space. He stood under the cold sky, snowflakes melting. On his face, suddenly, his wrist console buzzed. Private channel incoming. Transmission source owns command. He hesitated, then opened the channel. Voice spoke. Calm, cold. Captain Vorn, you've made contact with Lyra 2-1. You've seen what she is. We understand this is difficult. But your father's mistakes nearly cost humanity a great deal. Do not repeat them. Rayan didn't reply. You are authorized to complete the mission. Use the sedative device in your emergency kit. Once the subject is unconscious, send a signal flare. We will collect. If you refuse, you will not be allowed to return. This is your only chance, the message ended. Rayan stood still. Snow fell around him. The world felt quiet again, inside. His jacket, he felt the small metal case, the sedative device. He hadn't even opened it. He didn't want to. He walked back into the cave. Lyra was asleep, curled near the heater. She looked peaceful, not dangerous. Not a monster, just tired. He sat beside her. His hand touched the metal case in his pocket. His fingers closed around it. Slowly, carefully. He pulled it out. He stared at it. Then her eyes opened. She didn't move. She didn't panic. She simply looked at the case. And then at him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then she whispered, "So this is the moment." Rand's hand shook. He dropped the device. It hit the ground with a small click. "No," he said. "I can't do it." She reached for his hand. "You just did," she said gently. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the ground. They both stood up fast. A flash of fire rose from the forest outside. Smoke, lights, gunfire. Rand ran to the cave entrance. His eyes widened. Another ship was falling from the sky, crashing hard into the trees. Not the enemy. Something else. He turned to Lyra. "Someone else is coming." She looked at the smoke, then back at him. "Not everyone wants me dead," she said softly. "Some want me alive." The forest burned in the distance. Orange flames cracked through the icy trees, black smoke rising into the gray sky. Rayan watched from the cave entrance, his heart pounding. Another ship had crashed, but it wasn't military, and it wasn't human. Lyra stood behind him, her silver hair glowing faintly in the flickering light. "Do you know who it is?" Rayan asked. She nodded slowly. "They're called the Seekers. They've searched for me for a long time. They don't want me destroyed. They want me awakened." "Awakened?" Rayan turned to her. "What does that mean?" Lyra's voice was quiet. "I was created to connect minds, emotions. I wasn't just a weapon. I was a bridge between species, between worlds." Rayan took a step back, his mind spinning. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't know if I could trust you," she said. "Now I do," a loud boom echoed through the mountains. From above, the military dropship hovered lower, scanning the burning forest. Searchlights cut across the snow, hunting both the crash site and the cave. "They'll find us soon," Rayan said. "We can't stay here," Lyra pointed to the mountain path. "There's another way. A cave tunnel leads to the valley. We can hide there or meet the Seekers." Rayan's jaw clenched. His console buzzed again, another message from command. He didn't open it. He didn't have to. He knew what it would say. One last warning. One last threat. He looked at Lyra. "They won't stop until you're gone." "I know." Rayan stepped away, pacing. His mind raced between choices. Stay and fight, run and hide, or hand her over, save himself, and return home. "Back on Earth," he said, "I used to believe everything had a clear answer. Good or bad, right or wrong. And now?" she asked. "Now I see. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking everything else." He looked at her, not as a mystery, not as an experiment, but as someone real. Someone who had saved him, someone who had been used and left behind. She had every reason to hate humans. But she did in single quotes. She had chosen kindness. Now it was his turn to choose. "Let's go," he said, "to the valley." They moved quickly through the tunnel, deeper, into the mountain. The air grew warmer. Geothermal vents hidden under the rocks gave off soft heat. Lyra walked beside him, slower now, weaker. "I'm sorry," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For everything you lost because of me. Your home, your future." He shook his head. "I didn't lose anything, I just found something different." She looked at him with a small smile. Suddenly, the tunnel shook. A blast. Then a voice boomed through a speaker hidden in the rocks. "Rayan Vorn, we know where you are. There's no escape. Surrender the specimen and return home." Lyra stopped. "They've sealed the exit." "Another choice." Rayan turned to her. "If I go out there alone, they might take me back. Maybe even leave you alone." "They won't," she said. "They'll kill me the moment you're gone, then we make them see." He reached into his bag and pulled out the old core. "From the lab, the one filled with memories and data. This has everything," he said. "Recordings, logs, your origin. My father's truth. If we broadcast it, maybe we can force them to stop." Lyra stepped forward and placed her hands over his. "It won't save me," she said softly, "but it might save others like me." Someday, Rayan swallowed hard. That's not good enough. He activated his console and linked it to the core. The signal was weak, but enough to reach the nearest satellite. He tapped Upload All. A loading bar appeared. 3%. 4%. Footsteps echoed behind them. Soldiers. They single quotes to found another way in. Lyra's hands trembled. Her glow flickered. Go, she said. I'll hold them off. Buy you time? No, Rayan said. We do this together. She looked up. You'll die, maybe, but not alone. He raised his flare gun and aimed it at the tunnel ceiling. One shot. The rocks could collapse, sealing the way behind them. 74%. 89%. 95%. Gunfire echoed behind them. Lyra stepped forward. Her glow turned bright, her hair floating around her. The emotions in the tunnel changed. Sadness, fear, love, all crashing together. Rayan. Fire. The tunnel behind them collapsed in a roar of dust and rock. They were trapped. But the upload. Finished. Upload complete. Transmission sent. Far above, in orbit. Someone would hear the truth. Someone would know what happened on this frozen planet. What humans had done. And what they nearly destroyed. Rayan turned to Lyra. She collapsed into his arms. Weak, glowing faintly. You chose me, she whispered. He held her close. With all I had? They lay together in silence, the mountains still around them. Outside, the world was watching. Silence, thick and heavy like the mountain itself. The tunnel had collapsed behind them, sealing out the soldiers, the war, and the cold world beyond. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. The only sound was breathing, weak, soft. Fading. Rayan held Lyra in his arms. Her glow had dimmed. Her body was cold. He pressed a hand to her cheek. Stay with me. She blinked slowly. I can feel you, afraid. I'm not afraid of dying, he whispered. I'm afraid of losing you. She smiled faintly. You already gave me everything. Warmth. A name. A reason to believe I was more than a mistake. No, he said, shaking his head. You're not a mistake. You're the most real thing I've ever known. Lyra's breathing slowed. I'm tired. Rayan. No, he said. No, please, don't leave now. We made it this far. Outside. The sealed tunnel, distant explosions echoed. The soldiers were trying to break in again, but the data was already sent. The truth was out. Whoever was listening up there, in orbit or across the stars, now knew about her. Lyra reached into her pocket and pulled out the photo, the one with Rayan's family. She placed it in his hands. I always wondered what family felt like, she whispered. Now, I know. Her eyes closed. Rayan held her tighter. You're not going to die like this. He looked around. There had to be a way out. A light. A chance. Then, suddenly, a hum, a soft vibration under the floor. Rayan looked up. The far side of the chamber shimmered. Faint blue lights appeared, like stars aligning in the shape of a door. He stood slowly, carrying Lyra's limp body in his arms. The lights grew brighter. The hidden door slid open with a soft hiss. And there, standing in the light, were the Seekers. Tall, elegant beings with translucent skin and glowing eyes. They didn't carry weapons. They didn't speak. But Rayan felt them in his mind, like calm waves washing over a broken shore. One stepped forward and placed a hand on Lyra's forehead. Her body glowed again, just slightly. She is not gone, a voice said, not with sound but directly into Rayan's thoughts. She is unfinished. Rayan looked at them. Can you save her? The Seeker nodded. With your help. They motioned him forward into a glowing chamber. Machines activated around them, old but alive, pulsing with purpose. He laid Lyra gently onto a flat platform. The Seekers formed a circle around her. Energy passed between them like silent lightning. She was meant to be a bridge, one voice whispered. Half human, half light. She is heart and mind. But her heart was broken. She trusted again, another voice added. And so, she lives. Lyra's body rose slightly, floating between the lights. Her eyes fluttered open. She looked at Rayan. Then smiled. Warmth flooded the chamber, not from machines or heaters, But from her she was alive. He stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "Lyra, I heard your heart," she said. "It brought me back." The Seekers stepped back, silently watching. Lyra stood on her own now. Her silver hair floated around her, glowing softly. Her skin pulsed with new light, calm, warm, alive. "I remember now," she said, "what I was made for." "To connect us," Rand said. "To heal what we broke," she nodded. "And you helped me do that, not with commands, not with power, but with something stronger." He took her hand. With warmth. They walked out together through the glowing passage. Outside, the storm had passed. The sky was clearing. 2 moons hung above the mountains, and stars began to return. A second seeker ship had landed nearby. Quiet, peaceful. The soldiers who had chased them were now surrounded, not with weapons, but with silence. The Seekers had stopped them without a fight. Fear was gone. The truth had already reached Earth, and Earth was listening. Weeks passed. Rand chose not to return with the next human ship. He stayed on the frozen planet, now no longer just a prison, but a beginning. He built a shelter near the valley, warm and full of light. Lyra stayed with him. Each day she learned more about herself. Each night they sat by the fire, not hiding from the cold, but remembering it. The same cold that once separated them had brought them together. She once whispered, shivering in the dark, "Will you share your warmth with me, human?" And he had answered with his heart,